Well, hey, what's going on? Nick Kirby here. Welcome into Chatterbox Reds, proudly sponsored by DSC Commodities. Spring training is officially here. Reds pitchers and catchers and players participating in the World Baseball Classic reported on Monday to Goodyear, Arizona to officially get spring training underway. We'll talk about some of the storylines that are already kind of coming out. A lot of moves around the NL Central. We'll talk about those and a little bit more on today's show. So we'll jump right into it. Charlie Goldsmith and Mark Sheldon both put out a lot of really good content. So shout out to those guys for the work that they did. And that'll be the bulk of kind of what we're discussing here today. One of the first pieces of news is that the final rotation spot is a competition between Chase Burns, Rhett Lauder, and Brandon Williamson. Mark Sheldon actually predicted that Rhett Lauder would win the final rotation spot with Chase Burns in the bullpen. That is interesting. I would be shocked that just seems crazy to me that Chase Burns will be in the bullpen. Sheldon kind of mentioned how he would sort of fill that Nick Martinez role, like he did late in the season. I don't know about that. I feel like, Burns, outside of probably Green, has the potential to, be a top of the rotation arm pretty well right away. Not to take anything away from Abbott and Lodolo, but Burns is kind of on another level. So that's kind of wild to me. Obviously, you're going to have to limit Burns' innings. So that's something that you have to monitor. You might have to, I would think a situation where maybe Rhett Lauder and Chase Burns piggyback with each other, it might be on the table. Now, again, as I hate to say it, but I say it every year because it's true, probably doesn't matter because there probably will be one of the other four starters that probably gets hurt, and then you have plenty of spots where Lauder isn't ready or whatever. So, surprising. We'll watch that. I have a hard time believing if Chase Burns is healthy that you'd put him into a bullpen role where he would have to transition. The only thing I could see is if he's piggybacking with Rhett Lauder. Mark Sheldon predicted also that all of Benson, Bleday, Dane Myers would make the opening day roster. So the Reds would go without a true backup utility infielder. I love this. This is something I said either last week or the week before that I would love if the Reds did, because you have the flexibility with Sal Stewart, with Spencer Steer, that they could play multiple positions. It just seems like it would be a wasted roster spot to throw someone, with all due respect, like Santiago Espinal or Garrett Hampson on the roster that's basically just a backup infielder, because you're not going to take Ke'Bryan Hayes out of the game for defense. You're not going to take Matt McLain out of the game for defense. It's not like you have, bad guys in those spots. So I would love to go with this. And then you still have, I think, a lot more protection than I think people think. I think you have 4 third base options. You have 2 shortstop options with De La Cruz and McLain. I also think Ke'Bryan Hayes could probably play shortstop at a pinch. And then second base, you have McLain, you have Steer, you have Stewart, and then you have a ton of options at first base. I missed Eugenio Suarez can also play third base. He's played it his whole career. So it just seems like that would be a wasted spot. I'd love to have as many options as possible and kind of be able to mix and match a little bit more, which is something that we kind of get into next. The lineup question already, a big talking point here in spring training. This is from Charlie Goldsmith. He reported that obviously Friedl's batting first, Elly's batting third. That's been discussed since the offseason pretty much started. Francona said that's not changing. I listened to the audio. So, Charlie Goldsmith put out some audio, and the audio was really interesting. I think kind of cleared it up a little bit. The thing I liked is it felt like Francona was actually taking who's hitting second between the two of them very serious. This was a very important decision because it is. So I was really happy to hear Francona seeming like he's taking this very seriously, because breaking up those two, if you're dead set on batting those first and third, and I've said my piece. I'm moving on. There's no point in talking about it anymore. But if you're going that route, you have to find the right number 2 hitter because Friedl, there's the whole splits, but it hasn't. The last 2 years, he's been below 700 OPS against lefties. He was incredible in 2023 against lefties. I think that number's inflated. Again, I don't think he's as good against lefties. Elly, we know, is not as good against lefties. It's not even remotely close. So you have to have a guy that splits those two, that if a manager is going to bring in a left-handed reliever to face Friedl and Elly, which they're going to do, and they'll still do no matter who you put there, but at least make them pay in that number 2 spot. But also with that number 2 spot, you don't want to put a guy that can't hit right-handed pitching, because then early in the game, you're kind of wasting that spot as well. So it's a very important spot. Thing I loved is the very first name in the video that Charlie Goldsmith put out that came out of Terry Francona's mouth was Sal Stewart. So that makes me think at least he has some strong consideration. I think Sal Stewart is probably the best choice there. He might be the Reds' best hitter if Elly De La Cruz doesn't take a leap in 2026. And so obviously your best hitter should bat second. We've talked about that for years. So that kind of not probably the way that Francona was trying to do it, but it ended up working out in a way. I think Sal Stewart's the perfect fit. He also mentioned Spencer Steer and Noelvi Marte, but did acknowledge that Marte would have to hit significantly better against lefties. He says he's working on that. I don't really know how much you can just work on your ability to hit certain handedness. I'd love an actual explanation on that, because I don't really fully comprehend how you work on that specifically. I guess, facing more in the cages and stuff, but I don't know. Nonetheless, I don't love Steer at number 2, but I like him better than Marte, because he at least does, I think, he has a pretty good track record of hitting lefties, but he doesn't hit righties enough. He's a career below average 99 WRC plus over his entire career against right-handed pitching. That's not terrible, but you don't really want a guy that's not great batting second. So I think Stewart is a slam dunk choice for number 2. We'll continue to monitor that. That first lineup that comes out, we'll be critiquing it all. All right, the next thing on the agenda here, the Reds have officially 6 players in the organization competing in the World Baseball Classic. I saw the graphic. I couldn't find it again. I think the Reds were had the third fewest amount of players participating in the World Baseball Classic. One of them was the White Sox. I don't think it was by choice of the White Sox saying, don't play the World Baseball Classic. I think it was probably a little bit to do with their not having enough good players. But nonetheless, Eugenio Suarez will be competing for Venezuela. Edwin Arroyo for Puerto Rico. I know there's some issues with Puerto Rico, but I was looking at their roster. He might actually have a chance to start for them at shortstop or second base. So I think that'll be a really good experience for Arroyo. Avon Johnson, and then 3 other minor leaguers. Avon Johnson for Great Britain. David Lordy for Colombia. There is a gentleman, shout out to you, I think it's Merit is his last name, competing for the Netherlands. Not going to try to butcher his first name. And then Alexander Vargas for Cuba, player Reds picked up in the minor leagues last year. Was a Yankees kind of top international signing. Hadn't really panned out. I think he was a Dayton most of last year. But an interesting player. A long shot to ever make the Reds, but does have some pedigree there, and I think has some really talented defensively at shortstop. So he'll be competing nonetheless. Apparently, it sounds like Nick Lodolo wanted to pitch in the World Baseball Classic, or was at least floating that idea out. Charlie Goldsmith has reporting on this. Terry Francona said about Nick Lodolo, quote, "The pitchers are what I worry about. I talked to Lodolo a few times. I told him, if you're trying to do it, I'll support you. I'm just worried. I've seen guys come back and not be the same. I want you to be wealthy as hell. Maybe there'll be a day down the road where you have $50 million in the bank and go ahead and do it." I think it's smart of Francona to go from that perspective of, hey, I'm trying to make sure you don't lose any money. I don't really have a problem with this. I really don't. If Elly De La Cruz was fully healthy and there wasn't that whole thing, I might be like, hey, at least you'll let this guy compete. But that's a whole nother can of worms. I'll talk about Elly here in a second as well. But especially with the pitchers, like I'm thrilled that there's no big league pitchers competing. Even Emilio Pagan, who we thought was going to compete, it sounds like he's not. I'm thrilled. I mean, I think it's a great event. I think it's a cool idea, but like, I care about the Reds, man. And if any of these guys get hurt, I mean, it's going to significantly hurt the Reds' chances in 2026. So, yeah, maybe I'm selfish, but I'm selfish. So I'm thrilled there's no pitchers competing. I think Suarez, I think this is probably good for him. It'll be interesting to see what Venezuela does with Suarez, if he plays in the field or if he's just DHing or what. I don't think this could hurt him. I do think it'd be really good for Edwin Arroyo, kind of getting to compete, especially if he is able to actually crack like a lineup. I think Arenado's their third baseman, so it'd be kind of cool for Arroyo to get that. I think that'd be a good experience. Just the pitchers that you're expecting to help you in the big leagues in 2026, I don't really see how it helps anyone there. I hope Paul Skeens throws 50 innings in the World Baseball Classic and has to be shut down late in the year. I'm selfish. Sorry. Speaking of Elly De La Cruz, a video surfaced of Elly riding a moped. I think it was a moped out in the Dominican Republic. It said, Elly out with his friends. This was kind of a big debate in some ways about this. And I was surprised, honestly, that, especially like on our Chatterbox Sports social medias, there were so many people that were, let the guy live. I was like, this is like Elly gets crushed for like defense and striking out, but this was fine. Anyways, he was wearing the dirt bike without a helmet. Brad Meter, Reds GM, said that Elly said it was just for a picture or a video that they took. I don't know. It's not good. It's not. Like, there's a reason, like, Brad Meter had to come out and make a statement because most of these contracts specifically say you can't do this. And why can't you do this? Well, because players get hurt doing this and have to miss a full season. This happened to Fernando Tatis Jr. He missed like 4 months, and then he had the steroids on top of that. But he was riding a motorcycle or a dirt bike or something of that nature. Missed 4 months, and this could happen. And honestly, it could be even worse. There's been, unfortunately, a lot of players in the Dominican Republic that have been in car accidents. So yeah, it's not something. I don't think this is like we need to crush Elly De La Cruz. How dare Elly De La Cruz do this? I think it's something, hey, it's just not, we can't do. But I do think like this is not good. Like we can say that this is not good, while also not going into like the whole like pitchforks at the guy. I think it's a mistake though, and it's not something that's good in any way. Because the Reds' hopes and dreams rely on Elly De La Cruz. Graham Ashcraft won his arbitration case. This was an interesting arbitration case, just because Ashcraft started as a starter and then has been a reliever, and I think that's probably why there was such a big difference. Ashcraft wins for $1.75 million. The Reds had offered $1.25. Now, Tyler Stevenson reportedly had his arbitration case on Monday. The result coming on Tuesday as you're listening to this, so that news might be out by now. But that's where those things stand. All right, we had a bunch of NL Central news, some former Reds news. We'll run through it here. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks, as always, to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. I'll start off with the Milwaukee Brewers. They made a pretty big trade with the Boston Red Sox on Monday. The Brewers send Caleb Durbin, Andrew Monasterio, Anthony Siegler, and a competitive balance round B pick to the Red Sox. They received back left-handed pitcher Kyle Harrison, infielder David Hamilton, and a prospect named Shane Drohan. So this is kind of an interesting trade here from the Brewers. Caleb Durbin, a rookie, was a 2.8 wins above replacement, baseball reference version. Really good rookie year. They trade him away. He's the main piece here for Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison was a former top 25 prospect, a pitcher. You might remember he debuted against the Reds in San Francisco. That's the team he came up with. Absolutely dominated the Reds. He's kind of been up and down. He's been between AAA and the big leagues. Hasn't really found his footing. Hasn't been terrible. I think he has like a career 4.39 ERA over 42 career big league appearances. Most of those starts. But man, this is when I see this, I just see Kyle Harrison. This is the kind of guy the Brewers they fix, and he's not like completely broken either. But this is the kind of guy that pitching factory. Man, they do wonders with that. That terrifies me. But they are giving away a really good player in Caleb Durbin. Andrew Monasterio, I think Reds fans probably think he's a great player. Hasn't really put up great numbers, but he has killed the Reds. Unfortunately, he will be going to the Boston Red Sox, who the Reds play on opening day. So careful what you wish for and getting rid of a Reds killer. My biggest takeaway on this, we'll see how this trade pans out. This trade I really could see going a multitude of different ways. But this is one of the things that I wish the Reds would be a little more aggressive on. You have a player like Caleb Durbin who put up almost 3 wins above replacement his rookie year. Could you ever in a million years, let me ask you this, imagine the Reds trading that type of player, like a player, rookie, has a great rookie season. You know what? Hey, we're going to sell high on him. We're going to buy a guy, Kyle Harrison, that we believe we can turn into a top of the rotation arm. We're going to sell high and buy low. That's what the Brewers do. They do this a lot, and it's something I wish the Reds would do more of. Again, I think this was a good offseason for the Reds. I'm not trying to come out and be angry. I think what the Reds did this offseason was good. I think they have a really solid team that has a real chance to compete. But big, long-term picture, how you sustain this is what the Brewers do. And they make these kind of trades, and I just wish the Reds would do a little bit more of this. Now, why don't they do this? I don't really know the answer, because I don't think it's as simple as saying, well, Nick Kral's just not creative enough. Brad Meter's just not creative enough. We've seen in the past that there's been times where trades have been vetoed. There was the whole thing back in the mid 2010s with Reds having the All-Star game. Didn't want to trade away Johnny Cueto before the All-Star game, Jay Bruce, and that ended up hurting their value. And it just seemed like ownership does not want to trade away players that are fan favorites. Now, they did with Jonathan India, but Jonathan India at that point, it was kind of more acceptable, I think. And there was Matt McLain was right there. Like Matt McLain was literally beat down the door in 2023. And so it wasn't, I don't think it was necessarily as controversial as if it would have been if he traded Jonathan India after his rookie season. And I'm not saying the Reds had to trade Jonathan India after his rookie season. I just wish they would take some shots like this when there's the potential for these type of returns. And I think that's why the Brewers are great, and they've been a machine. Hopefully at some point the machine sputters, and at least the Reds can get a year break from it. But that's one thing the Brewers do that I wish the Reds would do more of. The Pittsburgh Pirates, after missing out on Eugenio Suarez, they signed Marcell Ozuna to a 1-year deal. The contract guarantees $10.5 million for 2026, includes a mutual option for 2027. Ozuna expected to be the Pirates DH. Now, I'm thrilled the Reds didn't get Marcell Ozuna just because of the whole off-the-field things that I'm not going to get into too much, but I don't think Marcell Ozuna should be playing baseball or should have sat out of baseball a long time. So I really did not want that guy on my personal favorite baseball team. But look, this is another move that makes the Pirates better. No question about it. Could Ozuna outperform Suarez in 2026? Yeah, he could. He didn't last year, but he did the years prior to that. He's 35 years old, so he's getting up there. This is the kind of deal, though, like the Suarez deal. It's a 1-year, $15 million deal. It's just money for 1 year. It doesn't hurt you long term. Same thing with the Pirates with Ozuna. This is from the baseball aspect of it. The kind of things that small market teams should be doing is supplementing these short-term deals like this. So we'll see. The one thing with the Pirates, though, you kind of looking up and down their roster, they are looking bad defensively. Like this team traded away the best defender in baseball, and Brian Hayes, and then they just feels like they just said, you know what, screw the defense. And we'll see how that works out for them. Spencer Horwitz at first base is a pretty solid defender, but Brandon Lau, who they got, is a terrible defender at second base. When we talked about him, I didn't want him to play at second base. I wanted him to be a first base DH option. But they're going to play O'Hearn in the outfield. He's not a very good defender in the outfield. That team defensively could be a real struggle. And when you have a really good pitching staff that's young, that could be interesting. So we'll see. We'll see how that shakes out. The Pirates are better. I don't think they're better than the Reds, but I think they're significantly better than the St. Louis Cardinals. And I think, once again, if anything, the Pirates will be a pain. They'll be a pain to deal with, and largely just because they can pitch. Man, can they pitch. Like, if you go out and you win 2 out of 3 from the Pirates, like, you might be like, hey, we didn't really beat a great team, but man, that was hard. And I think that's probably the kind of team that they're going to be, and a team that if things do go right, they could make the playoffs. I don't think it's out of the question at all, but a good baseball move for the Pirates. Nick Martinez signed a 1-year, $13 million deal with the Tampa Bay Rays. Boy, is starting pitching expensive. I love Nick Martinez. I would have loved to see him stick around with the Reds. I don't think for $13 million it would have made sense. But, man, I tell you what, the Tampa Bay Rays, they're making me scratch my head a little bit. They've now, on their roster, have Nick Martinez, Gavin Lux, Jake Fraley. I think this was like all the players that the Reds, a lot of Reds fans wanted to get rid of. The one of the smarter organizations in baseball wanted all of them. Now, Gavin Lux is a much different fit in Tampa Bay because they had a vacancy at second base. I think Gavin Lux is a much more valuable player if he can play every day at second base. Jake Fraley, with him, where was he going to play with the Reds? They just had, I think, better options. But if the Rays like him, there's something there. They also got Ryan Valade, too, as well. So let me see what Nick Martinez does in Tampa. He feels like a good fit there because he's a guy that can bounce back and forth. Tampa's been very good at being creative with that. But I'm rooting for Nick Martinez. He will go down, I think, as one of my ever-growing list of favorite Reds. I don't know if he's, top 20, top 40, whatever. But I really did enjoy Nick Martinez. An easy guy to root for. Good guy. I think he did a lot of good things for the Reds outside of just being a really solid pitcher. And he was a solid pitcher for the Reds. I mean, 82 games, a 3.38 ERA for the Reds. That's pretty solid. He was really good as a reliever. So shout out to Nick Martinez. We'll miss him. Didn't make sense for the Reds to do that deal, but I think he's worth that. I really do. Miguel Andujar and the Padres agreed to a 1-year contract worth $4 million. Andujar, really solid player, mashes lefties. That's a great value. I love that from the Padres' perspective. It's just if you're going to sign Suarez and you have Steer and Stewart, it's just where would he play? He can't play in the outfield. He could play first base and DH. It just would have been hard to see a fit for the Reds. Good deal, good value. It's just when you sign Suarez, I just don't think it made sense at all for the Reds. I was a little surprised that Scott Barlow signed for only $2 million, 1-year deal with the Athletics. Does have a $1.3 million in incentives. Barlow was great for the Reds in 2025. Kind of feel like the Reds, though, ran this guy into the ground. It might have been, honestly, a good time to move on when that happens, as unfair as that might be. But, man, that's not a lot of money. When you look through the Reds' bullpen, though, it would have been hard for a guy like Barlow to find a guaranteed spot in the bullpen. You kind of rather have some guys that do have some options that you can kind of manipulate there. So kind of surprised he got that little, but I also don't necessarily mad about moving on either. And then Brent Suter, he signs with the Angels for $1.25 billion. Shout out to Brent Suter, a guy that we enjoyed, but clearly I think didn't have a spot here for the Reds. All right, well, that's all I got today. Excited that baseball is back. Reds pitchers and catchers' first official workout. That will be on Wednesday, February 11th. Position players officially report on February 14th. First full squad workout, February 16th. First spring training game, February 21st against the Cleveland Guardians. We will plan on doing a Chatterbox Reds post-game show as long as everything goes according to plan after that. And then once we get games going, we will have a new podcast for you every single day. So we'll recap the game. The weekday games, we'll try to have an interview that goes with that. Some sort of conversation other than just, hey, here's what happened, here's the box score. We'll try to have a little bit of both for you every day. And then the weekends, really short little 5, 6, 7-minute episodes, just recapping the game, enough to get you while you're on the run, but keep you up to date. Some interesting things going on during spring training, just to touch on again. I know we've talked about them before, but Reds are facing the Cuban national team on March 4th, so that'll be interesting. The World Baseball Classic begins March 5th. It's a very short event. It's like March 5th. It's only 12 days, I think, through the 13th, I think. So it's a pretty short event. The Red Spring Breakout game, that is on March 19th against the Giants prospects. That's one of my favorite events. Love they're doing that in spring training. I'll be watching that closely. And the Reds doing 2 exhibition games in Milwaukee against the Brewers to finish out spring training, March 23rd through 24th. We hope that those games are on TV. That would be cool. Be kind of an interesting thing. The Reds haven't done anything like that in a while. It'll be just kind of a different thing. And a lot of teams do that. I know that the Angels and Dodgers actually do it like every single year. They play on one of the team's home field, or maybe they do both. But nonetheless, that'll be kind of interesting to see that. And then 150th opening day in Cincinnati on March 26th. Boy, it'll get here before you know. All right, well, thanks so much as always for tuning in today to Chatterbox Reds. Really do appreciate all your support. I will, in the upcoming days, I'm going to do a video on the Reds TV deal. There's some details that I don't really exactly have the full comprehension of yet. I got to spend a little bit more time researching it. I don't want to just put out like a cookie cutter video. Here's how to watch the Reds. I want to try to put something out that gives you exactly everything that you need to know, that's short and concise, and that people can hopefully go back on and get the full details. So that'll be coming, I promise, in the near future. But until then, we'll just kind of follow breaking news as it comes. We have a couple reports out of spring training that we'll find interesting. Me, Mike, and Craig, and Trace, and whoever else I can wrangle up, we will jump on here and talk about it. Lots of other great content here on Chatterbox Sports, the Stone Shield Show, going on. It's typically every day at 11 a.m. I know this week Stone had to move to the afternoons, but he updates everyone on Twitter. It's really good stuff. He had an interview with Freddie Benavidez. It's in the podcast feed here on Chatterbox Reds. The full video's up on our YouTube page. Really good interview. Really enjoyed that. Chatterbox Bearcats after every Cincinnati Bearcats basketball game on our YouTube page. And then for all the latest FC Cincinnati news, I know they got a new season starting again. The Flying Lion podcast, available on our YouTube page and every podcast. Links to all that is in the episode notes below. Well, I got to go because I got to get some sleep. because I got to get up tomorrow and I got to watch some curling. I don't know if you've watched curling, but this sport, I am obsessed. It is incredible. I have been fully locked in. If you've kind of been like me, I had always kind of, I'd turn on the curling. I'd watch, this is kind of cool, interesting. I didn't really have any idea what they're doing. I still don't fully understand it, but I would encourage you to watch like a video on YouTube, read a little bit about it, try to just understand the basics of the rules. It is a cool game. The Americans on Tuesday have the gold medal game. The mixed doubles, but this is like going on the whole Olympics. I think they have like multiple different. They have like the men's and the women's, and I think they have a men's doubles or something. So I'm excited. It's a really cool sport. It's a lot of fun. Check it out. I'm enjoying the Olympics. I'm a big fan. So shout out to that. All right, well, have a great day. We'll talk again soon. Go Reds.